Hi, everyone. Welcome to NAB 2026. My name is James Tian. I'm here with Justin Gutierrez of FX Design. Justin, I've known you for many years. FX is a great partner.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell the audience, who is FX and what you do there and what you enjoy most about what you do?
Well, first, thank you for having me. I always enjoy chatting with you about industry, the latest trends, things like that. FX is a full-scale design firm, and we offer full turnkey services. So what that means is we design, we fabricate, and we install TV sets. We do trade show booths. We do retail storefronts, things like that. We also offer full lighting services. So lighting design, product procurement, for equipment, and then we also do installations for lighting and grid systems. So we have a lot. We have three major business segments under one roof, but we offer quite a few things within each business segment. We're based out of Orlando, Florida. This is actually our 40th year in business. So yeah, and so we're really proud about that, and we're looking forward to continuing on for hopefully another 40 years to offer our professional services out into the world. We work both within the United States and internationally as well. So we have a pretty large footprint.
Thank you so much, Justin. Wow, that 40 years, that is a impressive history.
Yeah, it is. We're definitely proud of it to be one of the industry leaders in what we do, broadcast and trade shows and retail design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for FX and Ikan, where we intersect is your broadcast business, right? You guys do a lot of sets with a lot of television stations. Tell us a bit more about what that involves. And then beyond traditional television, what are your other market verticals, customer segments?
Well, television involves first design. So we are full custom design house. So we design everything from the ground up. We typically don't. A lot of design firms will have boxed designs already, but we try to pride ourselves in working with our clientele to meet their individual needs, because no studio is alike, right? Every studio is different. It's like a thumbprint. So we work with our clients hand in hand to develop what their budget is, what their needs are in their individual studio situation. So starts with the design. Once we get to a design that they like, we move into giving them, what the budget is for that. Then that typically will go to contract once they accept the budget, get it approved. And then we move it into production, fabrication, building. And then from fabrication, we ship the set to the site. And then we offer a lot of times, 90% of the time, 80% of the time, our lighting services, which allows us to light our own sets. We've been doing lighting for 40 years as well. We started off as a lighting company way back in the day. So that's what the broadcast side involves. The segment of trade shows is kind of similar. It starts with design, but with trade shows, it's a little different in the fact that we have a lot of repeat clientele where they have similar booth setups and everything at the trade shows every year. And we actually store a lot of their designs and stuff in our warehouse and kind of rent them out to them. But we also do new designs and experimental stuff. And when it comes to retail, that is really heavy on the design. A lot of times we'll work with construction companies and things like that to implement the designs into, retail spaces, store chains, storefronts, things like that. So
that is so cool. That's such a broad range of, similar things, right? A lot of shop work, right? A lot of building customized sets and display units and such, right? But the applications are in such different industries.
Yeah, it's a broad spectrum for sure. And we, in recent years, and I'm sure you've heard of industry changing in traditional broadcast. So we've really branched out in order to meet not only still broadcast needs, but out there in the world of the other design realms that exist.
Mm-hmm. So of those other realms, where do you see the greatest opportunity for growth for FX?
Right now, the smaller studio segment in the private sector of corporations, yes, thank you, is really taking off because the affordability has come down in terms of studio cost, the entire package, in terms from lighting to the way we fabricate and value engineer the set designs. 5 years ago, you'd go into a huge traditional broadcast studio, and it would be a humongous footprint, the room itself, and there would be these big grandiose sets, and technology was way up there in cost. But with the rollout of seamless LED video and more efficient LED lighting and different materials that we can use to build physical sets and also build virtual sets, we do that as well. The cost of all that has come down. I mean, compared to what the delta was 5, even 10 years ago. So we're seeing a jump in a lot of these companies saying, "Hey, I don't have to go out to a production house anymore and get them to set up something so I can do recordings and things like that. We can just do it in house. It's more affordable." We see it going into like more office buildings, and podcasts has become really popular in the last decade.
Yeah.
So now everybody's doing their own podcast, right? So that has been a real driver as well. And also traditional broadcast, they're more smaller footprint now as well.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, everything you said, I completely resonate with. We are here at NAB with a pop-up podcast simulated space, right? Not a
Yes.
traditional anchor desk space that we would in years past. The audience can't see it right now, but above us is a drop ceiling environment and not necessarily a pipe and grid. And that's because we recognize a lot of corporations are building studio spaces into an existing office or a conference room, and oftentimes that's what's there, a drop
Yes.
ceiling.
Absolutely.
Our PoE lighting continues to perform very well because it allows SIs, integrators like yourselves, to be able to install lighting in a place where otherwise, if without low voltage PoE technology, you would have to obtain a permit to get AC power in the ceiling, and that could potentially derail a project from even starting. And for corporations, unlike traditional television, where when they greenlight a studio, a new build, that's driving revenue, right? Better eyeballs means better revenue obtained through advertising during news segments, right, and during other programming. Whereas at the corporation level, the content they create is really about driving the brand awareness, driving marketing leads, right? So MQLs, qualified marketing leads, that could potentially lead to qualified sales leads, that could potentially then lead to conversion in a pipeline. So for a lot of corporations, they don't want to spend. They want to spend modestly as it pertains to creating a podcast studio, creating in-house marketing facilities, because ultimately it's not a direct revenue stream. It's a long-term play that could potentially lead to better revenue as the brand grows, but it's not an immediate return on investments, right? And so you're absolutely right. We're seeing a lot of corporations wanting to do more with less, and also wanting to do things with lower learning curves.
Yes.
Because ultimately they don't necessarily want to build out and hire up a dedicated staff, if they don't know how much utilization they will get out of the podcast space that they built, right? So we definitely recognize a lot of the constraints that corporations has
Mhm.
that traditional television stations don't have.
Yeah, and those things are all very important, as well as budgets, right? And reliability of product, which is, thank you for delivering those products for our clientele, and allowing us to integrate and teach them how to use the product, which has become a lot more easy. The menu structures, things like that, because part of our services is training those clients to be self-sufficient long after we've done an install, right? So, a lot of times they want push button, right? They want a panel they can bring up their look, change their colors on their set, or what have you, and have it just be seamlessly integrated. And anybody who can operate a light switch can set the look for their podcast recordings. So that all plays into what you're saying as well.
Yeah, well said. If we, 2026, we're at around the midpoint point of 2026. If we look out into the next 3 to 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
where do you see the entire landscape of broadcast as it pertains to traditional television, as well as what we're talking about new broadcast mediums like corporations and education, right? We know that there's been a lot of headlines about the major television groups consolidating, right? We got
Yes.
Nexstar with Tecna. We've got potentially a Sinclair with EW strips, right? That's to be seen because, yeah, there's just a lot going on. The FCC is expected to loosen regulations on ownership percentages. So we can talk about where traditional broadcast is going through this consolidation and post consolidation, and we can also talk about corporations and what's happening there. What would you like to
So
talk
I think
about?
first and foremost, there is a drive, and it seems like it's been going on for eons, but to lower costs, right? Especially the larger a company gets or corporation gets, the more they have to try to control costs so that they can remain profitable, right? So they're a lot of times they're looking at bottom line. When you talk about mergers and um, that kind of thing, what we see is the scale going down and shrinking. They're looking for more one-stop solutions. They're looking for more boxed type rollouts where they can roll it out in multiple areas, locations, but without spending an arm and a leg to get it there, right? They also want ease of use. They want, again, friendly options, whether it's designs, the physical scenery, lighting technology, video technology. So that's where it's headed. Whether you look at broadcast, traditional broadcast, corporate studios, houses of worship, even on the collegiate level, they want simple solutions. They want to be able to go to the people that write the checks and say, "This is an affordable thing. It's reliable, and just one stop shop." So
Hmm.
that's where I see it headed.
Yeah. Um, for traditional broadcast, do you see that beyond the studio space? Are there other things that you're seeing in terms of where they're investing their money? Like, is there a move towards more IP based workflows or cloud storage? Is there a move towards automation? Like,
Yes,
yeah.
and that's a great question. There is a move towards automation, right? There is a push to, back in the when I say the old days, right? But back before, the broadcast industry was set up where you had a just entire floor crew in a studio. You had people on each camera. You had a floor director, a couple floor directors. You had a lot of talent. There was several anchors. There was a weather guy, a sports guy. So they've taken that and they've really scaled it down to where now you get like maybe 3 people in that studio when they're recording. Some of them don't even record live, but they don't even go live anymore. They record segments and then piece those segments together. So that has been a big driver, right? In terms of, your question is like a multi-part question, but in terms of the other side of that, we see a driver for a lot of automation in the cameras, in the lighting, right? Where some studios set stuff up on like a stream deck, or they run from their ROS system. They run commands from the lighting controllers, right? So they have one or two people in the control room setting everything up, going through, and as it's going through, and they're kind of babysitting it. Everything's running automated in the background, right? To the camera switching or even moving robotically, where you don't have as many live people there, right? Physical people. So that's what we've seen the driver in the last really bump up in the last couple of years, 3 to 5 years.
It's really, really interesting. It makes perfect sense, right? We've seen the need for. I mean, you mentioned, controlling costs, staying profitable. That those are all kind of themes that are moving along in that direction, right? And
Yeah.
automation will help these stations. Every year we come to NAB, for both you and I, we're here to exhibit and meet our clients, grow our businesses, but it's also a chance for us to kind of understand and kind of get a pulse on the industry. Now that you're here, or even before coming here, what are some technologies that you were most interested or excited to check out when at the show this year?
So I'm also our senior lighting designer for FX. So I'm our managing director, senior lighting designer, and senior project manager. But um, my training is in lighting, right? I was trained in theatrical lighting design technology. So anytime I come to these conferences, I always look for lighting, right? The latest lighting technologies. So I'll talk a little bit about that.
Yep.
What I'm looking for is lighting that's being developed for these smaller footprints.
Hmm.
Lower grid systems, lower ceilings like in an office building where you have a drop ceiling track. They have acoustical tiles or whatever, and we're attaching lights to that. You ICANN's PoE system that you guys developed, I think launched about 2 years ago or 3 years ago now,
Mhm.
has been a lifesaver and a game changer in the industry, because now we're talking about one cable controlling your power and your control, your data, your DMX to those fixtures. The low profile LBX lights that you guys developed and the LBX 16
Mhm.
have also added to making ease of use and being able to fit these lights in smaller ceilings and grids. Because when you think about a traditional broadcast studio, before your grids would be anywhere from 16 to 20 feet high, right? We used what we call hangers to drop those lights down to an acceptable level and things like that. Those are the type of studio you're seeing big production studios back in the day.
Mhm.
Now, a lot of companies are fitting those studios into old renovated office buildings and things like that with a 9 to 10 foot high ceiling above the deck. So you need that type, and plus with the PoE, don't have to worry about getting like an electrical GC like we've talked about in the process. So I'm looking for things like that, right? I'm looking for smaller fixtures that have powerful output. So we're have a long term ROI for the customer or the client, that they're not running high electricity bills anymore. Ease of use on menu structures, things like that we can give to these clients that are building out their own studios that may not have been in the industry, the traditional broadcast industry for decades. They're just maybe starting out. That's what they're looking for. So I'm out there scoping out those technologies so that I have tools to offer them when they call us up and say, "Hey, I want to build out a studio." And we do offer consulting services as well. So that's something that plays into that. But yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for companies that are that are adapting to the changing landscape, and it is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And if you're not changing with it, you're going to be left behind. So you guys ICANN has done that. You listen to your clients and you develop product at request, at their needs, and that's why we've enjoyed the partnership for so many years because you guys listen. So those are the things that I look for in terms
Yeah.
of lighting.
Thank you so much, Justin. We deeply appreciate your invaluable, um, advice and insight into what your needs are, because as a manufacturer, any manufacturer can attest, when you have a built-in audience that can give you real environmental feedback and you design based on that feedback, that is the most assured way that we know we're investing for success,
Yes.
right? When you're trying to build something that you're not even sure if the market wants or needs, there's definitely a lot of risk taking there.
Yeah.
When we took on the PoE lighting, there was definitely some risk, but I talked to you about it. You affirmed that that was the right direction, and so it made it much easier for me to invest into that R&D effort, invest into production, invest in the brand and the release of these products, and
Right.
they've been tremendously successful since launch. Thank you so much for that insight and all the input that you and FX have given us over the years. Mac and everybody else that's been with FX. It's been very insightful. It's really helped us to understand your customers so that we can meet their needs
Yeah.
and deliver solutions that they want. Speaking of the changing landscape and customers, are you getting more requests from your, say, corporate customers or education customers to build a space like what we're seeing here, right? You mentioned the environments that where you don't have a traditional grid system anymore. You're building it in existing office footprints. What are some of those conversations like that are different from, say, a traditional broadcast, a traditional broadcast customers? And are you having to? You mentioned a lot about education. Are you having to take on more of the training and education for some of the staff that are in a corporation versus, say, a TV station?
So the conversation always starts, I have a space. I'm looking at building out my own studio in a space. That's how the conversation always starts. And from there, we have a certain list of questions that we ask the client to engage with them and try to get them to open up about, okay, what kind of space do you have? How big is it? What kind of content are you looking to produce? What is your ideal shooting schedule for this? Do you plan on doing pre-recording? So there's all these questions we ask them to get them to the point where we can actually start putting pen to paper and coming up with concepts for them that work. But what they're asking for is a simple solution, right? An all-in-one solution in terms of, okay, the scenery, they want it to look good, but they don't want it to cost $1 million, but they want it to be able to fit in a space. Ceiling height is always one of those top things. Like, okay, we only have an 8-foot high drop ceiling, or we have a 9-foot high drop ceiling. Okay, well, that limits your height choices, right? So there's several solutions that we'll present to them, whether it's more modular panels we've started doing with fabric and things like that, where you can set these things up very easily, very fast, but it looks really nice. When you drop in our booth at some point during the show, you'll see it looks like laminated pieces, but those are all fabric panels on between the columns that we have set up. But so there's things like that. And then in terms of ease of use with the technology, right? They want to set something up on like a Stream Deck or something where they can just push a couple buttons or one button to set up their whole look. And maybe that even starts the recording process on the camera, and it brings up the lights to the level that they want, and it sets their color. And I know you guys have rolled out with QSys, the QSys system, to deliver that kind of all-in-one product. So you hit the nail on the head with it, right? And that helps us also deliver a quality product to our clientele, sell the product, and then offer the support after, right? Because you guys back up the product 100%. So that's what they're asking for. They want it to be, and of course that makes training easier, right? You don't have to be super knowledgeable with 10, 20 years in your pocket in broadcast to be able to operate your studio now. You have these all-in-one solutions, especially like with the Rover I'm looking at right here.
Yeah.
An all-in-one solution. It has the light, it has your camera, it has your confidence monitor, and then all of the equipment underneath. What a great product that is, right? To offer this kind of clientele. And that's exactly what they're offering for. So that goes back to what I said a few minutes ago, where you're meeting the needs, listening to what the consumer wants, right? And the client wants. But that's exactly what they're asking for. So that's great. That's a great follow-up question.
Well, thank you for affirming that, Justin. Yeah, we're very excited about getting the studio over to market.
Yeah.
It'll be early May. And we really think that it will be something that allows people to allows a lot of corporations to get serious about production.
Yes.
And start with a piece of technology that they can feel comfortable. It's an all-in-one solution. It's a mobile solution, right? So they can take it from an executive office to a meeting space, to a town hall space, to a conference room. It just offers a lot of flexibility, and then corporations can also scale into it as well, which is the exciting thing, right? Like, what we always advise our corporate clients is, like, you don't need to build an ivory tower on day one. It really depends on utilization. If there's great utilization, then yeah, you definitely want to build, right? But until then, you can scale into it.
Yes.
And the Studio Rover is just that. You can scale into it. And even when you eventually go from a portable studio to a complete integrated mobile studio with beautiful sets that you would build for them, the Rover is still an extension of that studio when you do remote production.
Right.
So you'll never feel like that piece of technology that you've invested in is obsolete. It will always be a part of the studio. It can be an extension of the studio, or it could be a mobile endpoint to the studio. And so it's I think because of that, I think the appeal is going to be we're excited about how it will be utilized in our in the environments that our clients are gonna want to use it in. Yeah.
And just having the other product lineup that you have, the PoE is in terms of the easeability of integrating into a studio, whether it's traditional broadcast or podcast or what have you. Yeah. Plus, you still have the regular DMX, traditional DMX line, and now you're incorporating more color panels and things like that.
Yes.
So that's also really exciting to be able to offer those tools out of the toolbox to potential clients, or even 50% of our business is repeat. right? Where studios come to us after like 5 or 10 or 15 years, say, hey, we want to refresh our studio, or we want to build a new studio, or we're moving the studio into another building. We got to scale it up or scale it down. So being able to offer those pieces of technology and products to them really helps for them to say, hey, I like this company. Let's go with them, So thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Justin. And that's so cool.
Good. Cool.
Let's see. What your feedback has always allowed us to do what we do best. Do you have any addition, like what other things can we bring to market that will help kind of make what you do better, easier, more streamlined?
So that's an excellent question. And, I've kind of thought about where some of the design in terms of lighting is going in smaller studios, podcast studios. So what I would ask for you guys to look at to continue to develop is more intimate lighting, like more ellipsoidal type fixtures. So we can create more intimate lighting, because these smaller studios, they don't necessarily want to have just soft light everywhere. Sometimes they want a more intimate look to where their background can pop a little bit. You and I have talked about
like a more documentary look, like that's
more theatrical, right? A little bit more theatrical. Where in traditional broadcast, they want the faces completely like just lit all around. But some of these smaller entities in these more intimate studios, they want to have a little bit of shadow, mysterious with their thing, or they want to have more focused lighting, right?
Yeah.
So those type of fixtures, please continue to look at offering that as part of your product lineup. I've talked to you at length about also like par color fixtures, having a go-to for that. I know that's something that you have looked into, but I would like to continue on with the path of one-stop shop, right? Where we're sticking with one brand, so we don't have to go out to other brands if we're using the Ikan product. It's Ikan product across the board, right? Because then you talk to the same support, you have the same kind of menu structures and things to incorporate into that. And I think you guys have listened with the soft panels coming with the color panel for some of these models that you didn't have 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. So you are expanding the product line. But I would say please continue to do that. Look at how you can incorporate some of those more theatrical things in, because it's starting to kind of meld a little bit, right? We're getting away from the just traditional old school like soft panels and Fresnel lights, and we're kind of like homing in on what we can do with these studios and make it different than how it used to be, right? It, like I said a few minutes ago, it's evolving, right? And we have to be evolving with it. It's a moving, living, breathing thing. And in order to stay relevant, right? This is for our company as well. We have to listen to our clients and we have to deliver to them what they want, right? So I would say continue to do that and look into the latest and greatest technologies. I know we talked at length maybe a year or two ago about the next phase of PoE, right? And where they're headed with the next standard, right? Where they're going to be able to have more power than what they have now, right? It's coming. It's eventually going to develop, right? So that's exciting as well. I think, in terms of PoE rolling out to things like homes and things like that, you're going to see a lot more of that when you build a house. You're going to have PoE lights in your can fixtures or your regular lamps and things like that, where you're just going to outfit the whole house with that. But we're seeing that in commercial right now with this product, right? And I think in a couple more years, a lot of these other lighting manufacturers and designers, you're gonna start seeing that in other companies. So oh, we have our own PoE line now. It's coming. And you guys were the springboard to get the ball rolling on it. So that's exciting to have to offer that kind of product.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
good
Justin.
stuff.
Thank you. We are very excited. We are first to market with the technology. We are thankful to have obtained the patents for the technology as well. But we've always been a company that sees lifting others up, and I think to the extent that this technology is going to benefit others, we will certainly work with other manufacturers.
Yeah.
So we're excited about that. You also mentioned the ellipsoidal. We did showcase. We are showcasing one. We will be releasing one in a very short amount of time.
Fantastic.
And I want to say as early as like next week, if not the week after.
Wow. Okay.
So it's pretty much ready to go. And yeah, I'd love to see get that. Get your hands on it, get tested, and see if there's an opportunity for us to get a project, within the next couple of months.
Yeah.
That would be really cool. And it is a high CRI.
Great.
It's the same engine that powers our PoE Fresnels,
Okay.
but now with an ellipsoidal modifier in front of it. So it's going to, we think it's going to at least get the conversation started about including that as part of a PoE deployment for like I said, a small space, a tight space.
And let me offer this advice, okay?
Yeah.
Look at like a show like ABC World News Tonight with David Muir, right? They show a lot of shots of their lighting, right? They're using a more intimate theatrical setup, and this is in a big studio, right? Nationally syndicated program, but we're looking at that and I want to be, on the forefront of developing that for these smaller studios, these more intimate studios, to light in that manner, right? Because the theatrical side of me is coming out when I think about that, to make it more intimate, but to also light them well. Have good CRI, have quality, a field of quality beam, a homogenized beam coming out of these ellipsoidals and things like that. And maybe we use those for more key lights and things. And I know you guys are great with product testing, right? And getting demos and things like that. And that's one thing that really we appreciate as well, because you can design in a vacuum all you want within your own little family. And sometimes maybe your people will be honest with you, maybe they won't, it just depends. But you really have to have that product out in the world, right? It needs to be tested by the people that are going to be using it, recommending it, installing it. That's very important to have that out, those products out as demos in the regular world. So we've always enjoyed being able to get those products from you and field test them, and really kick them around and, see what the limitations are. And I know I've given you a ton of feedback on the products, right?
Invaluable feedback.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you guys have actually listened to, all of that and just incorporated into the next phase or the next version. One good thing I will say, like as an example, is for years we talked about a lockout feature on the display panel, because a lot of times you'd accidentally change the DMX or some setting. Well, now on these new versions of lights, what do we have? We have a lockout, right? It was one of the number one things asked for from my clients. It's like, how can we get this? And another good thing is the modifiers, right? The Lyra line, the 1x1 started out as more of a field fixture, right?
Yeah.
For like setting up
For on locations,
but you took that product and you developed it to work in both field and studio, right? By adding the modifiers, or you have the barn doors, you have the bounce reflectors.
Yeah.
So those are all really exciting things to just know. I mean, so it's exciting stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a great partnership, Justin.
Yeah.
Thank you for, that and many years of friendship.
Absolutely.
And I look forward to many years to come.
Yeah, me as well. So, and thank you again for the opportunity to listen to what we do in the business and how we partner with you all in terms of our projects. So
thank you. I hope FX have a very successful show, and I hope you enjoy all of NAB.
Yes, likewise. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Justin.
All right.